Imagine for a moment, a fortune so vast it's almost impossible to picture. One man built an entire empire on a promise. And then, in what felt like the blink of an eye, it was all gone. This is a story about a meteoric rise and a fall that shook the world.
$32 billion. Just let that number sink in. That's what his empire was worth at its peak. A number built not on cold, hard cash, but on hype, on trust, and as we'll see, on a very carefully constructed illusion.
And just like that, it evaporated. A company worth billions, completely wiped out. We're going to break down how one of the biggest fortunes in modern history simply vanished and took ordinary people's life savings right along with it. So how does something like this even happen? Well, to understand the collapse, you first have to understand the man at the very center of it all, Sam Bankman-Fried. Or, as pretty much everyone knew him, SBF. You know, when you looked at SBF, you didn't see a typical billionaire. The messy hair, the shorts, the t-shirt, it was all part of this image. He looked like this nerdy, approachable genius who really didn't care about money. But behind that casual facade was the undisputed king of crypto.
His company was FTX, a massive cryptocurrency exchange, and the promise was so simple. Hey, deposit your money with us and you can trade crypto safely. And people, they really believed it. Why wouldn't they? FTX had Tom Brady, major investors, the whole shebang. SBF himself was charming politicians. It looked like the safe face of a very wild industry.
But that was just the public story. Behind that trusted exchange, something else was going on. Something that was kept hidden from customers, from investors, from pretty much everyone.
And this is where the whole picture starts to get really murky. Because you see, SBF wasn't just the guy in charge of the exchange. He was also the secret owner of a totally separate and much riskier trading firm.
Now, right away, that's a huge conflict of interest. On one hand, you've got FTX, the exchange, holding billions of dollars of customer money, and it's being sold as safe. But on the other hand, you have Alameda Research, a private hedge fund making massive, reckless bets in the market. And the same guy, SBF, owned them both.
So here's what investigators eventually uncovered. A secret backdoor. Billions of dollars in customer deposits from the safe exchange were being quietly funneled over to the risky trading firm to cover its gambling losses. And that was the secret at the very heart of the empire.
When you're using customer money to make incredibly risky trades, your entire $32 billion enterprise is unbelievably fragile. It's not a fortress at all. It's really just a house of cards, waiting for the slightest breeze to knock it all over. And it turns out, it only took one little crack to bring the entire thing tumbling down. A single report that showed the foundation of this company wasn't just weak, it was basically imaginary. A news outlet got their hands on a leaked copy of Alameda's financials, and what they saw was, well, it was shocking. The company's value wasn't built on solid investments or real cash. No, it was being propped up by something else entirely. And that something else was a crypto token called FTT. Now this is the most critical piece of the whole puzzle. FTT wasn't like Bitcoin or some other asset. It was a token that FTX, SBF's own company, literally created out of thin air. So let's put it together. Alameda, the firm that was making all those reckless bets with customer money, its foundation wasn't built on anything real or stable. And there it is. That was the core of the fraud. It was a giant circular scheme. FTX prints a token out of nowhere, they give it a value, and then Alameda uses that same token as collateral to borrow billions of real dollars from FTX customers. The whole empire was built on their own made-up money.
Once that secret finally got out into the open, the house of cards didn't just wobble. It absolutely imploded. And it happened with a speed that just stunned the entire financial world.
And I mean, it happened fast. On November 2nd, that report comes out. Just 4 days later, panic kicks in, you have a classic bank run. But the thing is, the money wasn't there. By November 8th, FTX slams the door shut, freezing all withdrawals. And just 3 days after that, the entire $32 billion company files for bankruptcy. Gone. The fallout was just devastating. Billions in customer funds had simply vanished, lost forever in Alameda's failed bets. But the real cost, of course, was human. We're talking about regular people who trusted this platform with their life savings, and they lost everything. And the man who was once the face of the crypto revolution, the genius in shorts, well, he went from a billionaire in the Bahamas to a defendant in one of the biggest financial fraud cases in American history. So,
When all the smoke clears, what's the real lesson here? What does a collapse this spectacular actually teach us about our money and, more importantly, about our trust?
Because at the end of the day, this isn't just a story about cryptocurrency. It's a timeless story about trust itself. People didn't put their faith in a complex algorithm. They put their faith in a charismatic founder. They trusted a slick marketing campaign. They trusted a system that just felt too big to fail. They trusted that their money was safe. And maybe that's the final, chilling takeaway. The biggest scams, they never look like scams. They look safe, they look innovative, they look trustworthy, and it leaves you with a question you have to ask yourself. In a world full of illusions, how do you ever really know where your trust is truly safe?